Al Carroll. So the way this usually works is I ask a bunch of questions and then we cheers at the end. But I feel like today is kind of a big day. So if you're down, I think a cheers here at the beginning. Congratulations, man. Like the new boss. And frankly, my last straight up, your first straight up. I think I want to start just with you telling us a little bit about yourself. For folks who maybe have not met you yet, who is Al Carroll?
Like you said, my name's Al Carroll. I come from Mims, Florida, which is a small unincorporated community, about 45 minutes due east of Orlando. It's about 15 minutes from the Kennedy Space Center. So I grew up as a NASA kid with parents in a community that put people in space for a living. And I've come here to Indianapolis ever since.
So why Indianapolis, right? So NASA kid, Kennedy Space Center, you could have lived on the moon maybe. Why pick a city like Indianapolis?
Well, there's a lot of reasons. I think that for a kid from Florida, the first thing that kind of caught my attention was Indianapolis hired Tony Dungy in 2001. So this Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan who felt slighted that Tony's team won the Super Bowl without him. I was particularly interested in Indianapolis after they hired Tony, so it was on my radar then. I met my wife Nicole in high school. We were 17. We were on a cruise. She's from Crown Point, Indiana. So I was particularly interested in schools here. I was catching up with a teacher from West Boca Raton Community High School. And no kidding, she asked, just that common question that you ask seniors, like, what schools are you interested in? I told her all the schools that I'd applied to, and I mentioned, in Butler University. She says, Butler? In Indianapolis? And I was like, yeah, actually. And she said, my son's an admission counselor there. Give me a second. And she called him right there on the spot. And about an hour later, I found out that I'd gotten in and been nominated for a scholarship. And that scholarship is pretty much the reason why I was able to come to school here.
So I want to dive into this just a second longer here. So you end up falling in love with someone who's from Indiana.
Right.
Then you find Butler, you land there. When did you actually fall in love with Indianapolis?
I got to tell you, coming from Florida, I really thought that I was going to come up here for a couple years. And I just had an experience here that it's kind of unheard of, right? Like my freshman year was the first time that Butler went to the Final Four, and it was in Indianapolis. And I still tell people that's the coolest experience of my entire life, right? Like having your school there, having it be in your city. That's the first time I really got to see how Indianapolis puts on events. So all of these things, the Super Bowl is usually in Florida, right? So all of these things that I was used to seeing at home or used to seeing in other bigger markets, bigger venues, was all happening right here. The other thing was that I learned from being in college that my network was here. So getting started after school, it was a little easier to kick off a career in Indianapolis after I had spent the last 4 years here interning and working. So I started right out of school in public accounting. I worked in IT audit. I did that for about 3.5 years. That's where I had my internship, and it really was kind of focused on that public accounting, Big Four. Thought I wanted to be on a partner path. And about 3 years in, I kind of realized that you don't get any points for being the personable auditor, right? Nobody likes the guy that's trying to see if they did their job right. Sure. So I found myself spending my time doing almost anything else, right? There was something else that I could go to. There's some other spot that I could volunteer or be outside of that audit function. That's what I was trying to do there. So through that, finding other things to do, I accidentally led the Indianapolis office in recruiting hours. So I really did. I really enjoyed getting out to campus, talking to students about what my experience was like, how I made the decision to go to school, or how I made the decision to start at the company that I did. And further, the organization actually gave me an opportunity to lead what they called the Unique People Experience, which was a seminar, like a quarterly seminar for new hires or interns or whoever was there at the time, to talk about how to be a better professional, how to be a better accounting professional. And I got a huge kick out of that. So shortly thereafter, when it was time to find something else to do, I wanted to find something that allowed me to work in that vein, and that's when I worked at found TechPoint.
All right, so tell me TechPoint, right? So I think because TechPoint in many ways is probably one of the jobs that most aligns with where you land now here at IndyHub. So what stands out to you about that time with that organization?
So my time at TechPoint really showed me a lot of things about pipeline and pipeline development, right? Like we were working diligently trying to make sure that we could increase the number of underrepresented people that were working in tech, right? The underrepresented communities in tech. And my job was to do that by recruiting at colleges and universities, right? Increasing the diverse pipeline of students that were studying the things that we were interested in on college campuses. And that's something that's particularly important for Indianapolis as we're trying to compete for talent with all the other major metros in the country. We have to be able to develop the talent that's here and be more thoughtful about how we build talent pathways to the roles that are going to be open and available in the future.
So let's talk about being here now. The heavens open up and Blake Johnson's out of the picture. He's
right.
Old news. Why apply for the job?
It's people, Blake, right? So folks reached out. As I started doing research, it was people like Sally, people like Joe, people like Boonme, people like Anthony Murdoch, right? Folks who I know and respect, who love this organization, right? People really have a strong affinity for the organization. So as I was doing my own internal initial research of should I get involved, should I put my hat in the ring? Those are some of the folks that I called, some of the folks that I talked to. Like what's happening here? Is this something that I could be interested in? And then you read the job description and it's like it's almost a one-to-one. It's how it felt, right? It's like, man, I really have almost every bit of experience that they're looking for something like this. So to me, it's about the people, but more so it's about the platform, right? Like it's an opportunity to really shape what the city is going to look like in the future. I really believe in vision, right? I believe in helping to identify or describe or define a vision that people can get behind and bring it to fruition to make happen, right? So IndyHub was an interesting opportunity for me to take all those skills and background that I had and put it together towards this community that I love so much and really kind of give me an opportunity to really focus on making those efforts towards improving it.
So at the time of us filming this, you are 1 week and 4 days in.
That's it.
So I'm gonna ask an unfair question.
Oh, hit me.
Which is, over these last 9 days, what stood out to you about the experience so far? Other than really enjoying your time with me.
No.
I know that probably stands out.
What stood out to me is that people like Blake Johnson.
It's surprising. I still don't get it. I can't believe my wife married me. I get it.
I think it is just how much people really care about this organization. From the time of the announcement even, much less the time since I've started, many people who have reached out to me, folks that have been indirectly in my network, maybe I don't talk to them every day, but people have gone out of their way to let me know, like, IndyHub is the reason why I'm here. That story happens a lot, Blake. I'm sure you hear it all the time. And for me, that's been, like, I shouldn't be surprised by it, but I think that just the sheer volume of people who've been willing to share that experience has definitely been interesting to me.
It's interesting because when I came on board, Molly and I had a conversation, about what this organization means, and I'll tell you that she was, 14 years in. I've been here for almost 4 years, and those conversations with people where they say, this organization's why I'm here, this organization's why I'm connected to this nonprofit, this organization's why I've got these group of friends, or this organization is why I met my wife or husband or partner, it doesn't get old, and it never gets old, and I think that's probably what I'm going to miss the most. Okay, all right, so we're a couple days away from me riding off into the sunset. What's next? What are you kind of thinking about? And we'll acknowledge it's early, but when you think about where you want this organization to be headed, what's on your mind?
What I was most interested in is this idea of activating young people outside of their jobs to move forward their career, to accelerate their own growth, right? Like, I am a testament and example of, like, if what you're willing to do for free may very well make the difference in your career. And there are so many organizations here that need leadership, that are looking to connect with young people, that want folks to be on boards, to participate, to volunteer. And I really want to help people understand that, like, hey, if you're not getting that opportunity, right, if you feel like you're ready to lead, and there's no room, right, for folks that find themselves in that position, right, like getting outside of your organization, giving back to nonprofits, giving back to sitting on committees, sitting on boards, right, those are the experiences that I feel like allow me to be in this seat, sitting across from Representative Blake Johnson.
Oh, come on, it's fine. So what I like about what you're saying is, like, so much of what we do is about creating connection between people and places and organizations. But then what you're kind of talking about is how do we take that connection and cultivate your next part of your story here,
right.
Which I think is really,
and
really
it's
awesome.
Not even so much to say that you have to equip and leave your organization, right? But to even be able to point to how you've been able to demonstrate your leadership skills, right? One of the big things that I always hated about jobs, or coming up for promotions or having conversations with my bosses or my career mentors, was this idea that you have to perform at the next level before someone would elevate you to that level, right? But I think that I think from the experiences that I've been able to have, I can see where I have been able to execute on some things and being able to prove that execution purely based on the volunteer experiences that I've had, whether it's on the board of trustees at Hobie International or volunteering for local college and university boards for their technology schools, right? Being in an environment that's using parliamentary procedure, being in an environment that's requiring that you come correct, in a world where you have to build consensus, right? Like, you're not ruling by authority, right? I think that I have been able to have the career that I've had because I've made a point to figure out how to lead without authority. And now that I have it, I feel like I'm still going to lean on a lot of those skills that we built, that I've developed to build consensus in that respect.
We obviously spend a lot of time talking about people make the city. It's a hashtag, a hat, a t-shirt, a tattoo, whatever it might be. When you hear that phrase and you started to, now you've got a couple t-shirts with it on there too, what's that phrase mean to you?
People make the city, to me, actually means people make the city, right? Like, it's our responsibility to take some ownership over what the city's going to look like in the future, right? It's one thing to be here and to consume all the great things that folks have intentionally built here in Indianapolis, but I really think that people makes the city means that it's your responsibility to influence what the city looks like in the future. That's really the reason why I'm so excited about taking over the role, but to me it means that we, especially young people, right? Previously millennials, but as we make that transition down to Gen Z, right? Like, it's our time, we're up, right? We are up. And I want to make sure that people are prepared for those roles and feel confident to take them on as the opportunities open, because as we see, they're opening up.
It's a remarkable thing. You're the third leader of the organization, right? And passing the torch from Molly to me, it was really exciting to kind of follow in her footsteps and see all she'd done over the course of more than a decade. And maybe I'm just fishing for a compliment here. I'm a politician. I need a little bit of affirmation. But I guess when you think about this torch being handed to you, what's kind of in your head?
IndyHub, it makes people feel a certain type of way, right? Like the vibe, environment, when you walk into a room, right? There's something different about the energy that's in there, right? When I think about like being hopeful, when I think about faith, right? One of the things that my parents always taught me is that faith without work is dead, right? So one of the things that I think that I am most impressed by of my predecessors at IndyHub is that they've done that work, right? You specifically have done that work. The intentional way that I feel like you brought up people of color, that you've highlighted and elevated people of color who are here in the city, right? Like we're leading in the city just like everybody else, but we don't always get those chances. We don't always get that highlight, right? And I think that in a lot of ways it helps people to see someone like me being able to take on a role like this, right? So I'm extremely grateful to you for that, and I'm also grateful to Molly for building an organization that allows young people the opportunity to be able to volunteer and to stretch, right? It takes work to do that, right? Like I know from my time at TechPoint, my time in recruiting, it's hard to get people to come to events. It's hard to curate, events that people really enjoy. I'm curious, Blake. So as you transition, as you head out, what's something that you would hope to see continue?
Well, listen, man. I think the thing I think that stands out to me about my time at the organization, the thing I would want to keep putting some fuel into is just how we think about people who are new to the city. It's moving to a new place is really tough, and especially if you're by yourself and you don't have a family, you don't have friends. And I think we play an important role of being that really soft landing, right? That vibe you talked about, when you walk in the door, you can automatically feel like you belong no matter what. And I think that's one of the most powerful things we do. It is one of the things that, I think about Rico Francis, who's now on our board, who came to the city, and he'll tell you that like those early moments of being with us were the things that made it easier to plant roots here. And now the guy, I don't think he's going anywhere, right? Absolutely. That stuff it just fills you up in a very different way. And at the same time the work's happening and you're seeing countless people. I mean, our welcome party last year, hundreds of people who are new to the city it's extraordinary to think that we're one of the few communities that roll out a red carpet for people that way.
I'm curious, from your perspective, like what are the things that are making it hard for us to recruit and retain talent?
I think that we run the risk when we do legislation and things that send a signal that we're not open for business for everybody. And I think that that's something that stands out to me a lot. And I'm gonna finish at IndyHub and then walk right into a fight on an issue like that. And at the end of the day, we've got to be the kind of state that it's not just at events that IndyHub's throwing, but as a city and as a state as a whole, are we saying that you belong here? And right now, I think we're sending a signal that isn't that. And that's a challenge for an organization like ours. It's all about belonging, all about connection. When we're sending a contrary signal through other channels, I think that's a challenge. And it means we've got to be even more accepting and even more welcoming and even more inclusive, which isn't always easy. And then we've also got to bring the voices, of 20 and 30 somethings together to be a little bit louder, a little bit more amplified on the issues that matter most to the future of the city. So you're going to be fine at this job. I think doing the straight up interviews, you got me all jammed up now.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, listen out. Congratulations, man.
Thanks.
So happy for you.
Cheers.
Stay in touch.
Yes, sir.